Right now, we have mass incarceration, an opioid epidemic, and a COVID-19 pandemic. This is a perfect storm for vulnerable communities.
The shift to online remote learning had a devastating effect on Native American children because those children are disproportionately impacted by low levels of broadband connectivity points.
What we're seeing right now is all of the injustices and inequalities, racial, socioeconomic, health inequalities, they are continuing right now and they're getting even worse. So the communities that we serve need as much help as they can get.
I work on combating the opioid epidemic in America's jails and prisons. My fellowship focuses on expanding access to medications for addiction treatment, commonly known as MAT. 25% of people with opioid use disorder cycle in and out of the prison and jail system every single year, and 98% of jails and prisons don't allow basic medication for people who have opioid use disorder. People who don't have access to MAT go through opioid withdrawal symptoms. Those symptoms overlap almost entirely with COVID-19. And so if we don't treat people with MAT, we're making it harder to fight the COVID-19 pandemic in jails and prisons. When the pandemic hit, I joined a few teams that were working on release of immigrant detainees and incarcerated people who were medically vulnerable to COVID-19. We brought lawsuits against ICE and against county and state jail facilities to make sure that, people who are medically vulnerable wouldn't get caught in a COVID hotspot. Our criminal legal system has given individuals with opioid use disorder a sentence, but that certainly shouldn't mean that it's a death sentence.
My fellowship focuses on protecting the civil rights of Indigenous youth as they navigate public schools, and my work is most interested in disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline. The school-to-prison pipeline describes this phenomenon whereby students are pushed out of the classroom through exclusionary discipline that leads to incarceration. Native American students are particularly vulnerable because acts of cultural expression can be often mistaken for disobedience by teachers and administrators. Another reason is explicit racism on the part of teachers and administrators. Native students are often from poor backgrounds and from communities that are in poverty. The pandemic and the shift to online learning had a devastating impact because Native youth are often from communities that don't have the necessary technology to connect to online learning. Right now, the focus for my fellowship work is creating Wi-Fi hotspots, advocating for more efficient disbursement of laptops and tablets, and then advocating for increased funding for broadband deployment to Native American reservations. I do worry that Native youth will struggle to catch back up, but Native American people are an inherently resilient people, so I have a lot of faith in tribal communities, but it will be a struggle.
I was born here in Houston. I grew up in immigrant communities and got a lot of exposure to the kinds of issues that immigrant communities face. My Equal Justice Works Fellowship focuses specifically on labor and employment law representation for low-wage workers, regardless of their immigration status. Immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, can be especially vulnerable. The employer might know that their employee might be undocumented, might use that as leverage over them, might threaten to call ICE or immigration enforcement on their employees if they complain. The pandemic really has increased the level of injustice that we're seeing. Workers are getting fired the moment they either develop symptoms or test positive for COVID. Employees are penalized for bringing up complaints on workplace safety. We've also seen employers file for bankruptcy, and that allows them to discharge the debts that they might have to their workers instead of paying them as they should have. Equal Justice Works has given me all of the tools, guides, and advice on how to meet the needs of our communities during the pandemic. Everyone deserves to have a safe and healthy workplace, regardless of what your immigration status might be. We should be uplifting all workers right now.
I love what I do because I was a Native American youth myself going through public schools, and I know how hard it was. I love being able to protect those students as they go through school.
This work is difficult, but at the end of the day, it's so meaningful. I think it's going to take every single one of us to come together and fight for a world that's different, but I think that we can do it.